Hello and welcome. I've been told so many times I need ridiculous amounts of money to start my property investment journey. In some occasions, I was told I need £100,000 to start my investment journey. So in this video, I'm really going to share with you how you could use only £5,000 to be able to generate £25,000 in just one property. And that property is a property you even haven't bought yourself. Basically, is to make your money work a lot harder, because that's what gets you to where you want to go. And again, this is just to show you that you don't need that £100,000 or £50,000 to start your property investment journey for you to be able to start making passive or residual income while staying at work if you love what you're doing. So before we get going, if you like this video or any of my videos, hit the like button below, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more of these amazing tutorials. I started my property investment journey from zero to building a multi-million pound property investment portfolio simply by using the strategy I'm going to share with you today and other strategies. And I was able to literally expedite my property investment journey and then back that up with investing in myself by educating myself to ensure I make minimum mistakes as possible. So I'd like to introduce you today a strategy called service accommodation. In other words, you can call it rent-to-service accommodation. Assuming that we haven't got £100,000, but we've got £5,000 to invest. This £5,000 could be £5,000 you've saved in the bank that's not generating you any interest. As you know, interest rate is at 1.6% at the moment and inflation is at 5.5%. Assuming we've got that £5,000 saved, or we have a £5,000 credit card, okay? Worst case scenario, or we could ask our mom, dad, parent, or whoever you can tap into to get that £5,000. So that will then allow you to be able to secure a property on a rent-to-service accommodation basis. But before we get going, I would like to define what service accommodation is or what rent-to-service accommodation is. Rent-to-service accommodation is the process by which an investor would go and secure a property. This could be 1-bedroom flat, 2-bedroom flat, or 2-bedroom house, or 3-bedroom house, however it is just that sort of property, right? And then the investor, take on that property from the landlord on a guaranteed rent basis. You fully furnish the apartment. If it's an apartment, if it's a house, you fully furnish that house, and then you then rent that property out on a short-term basis, or in some occasions you could even do long-term basis, providing hotel-like amenities such as room service, such as housekeeping, such as allowing the guests to actually cook and obviously feed themselves in the property. It's like a self-contained apartment. It's like a mini type boutique hotel without the on-site staff. Again, these are the sort of strategies investors are doing right now, especially during the COVID pandemic, because families or holiday goers likes to be in a self-contained apartment to ensure they do not actually mingle with people who may have the virus. And also it's been doing really well even before COVID, because people now like to do their own thing. They don't want to go into a hotel, expensive hotel, where the food is expensive and the nightly rate is expensive, especially if you've got 3 or 4 people traveling with you. It's a very efficient way to actually make your holiday cost effective, and then obviously you as an investor make money out of that strategy as well. So before we get to the calculations, I'd like to talk to you about where do we get these sort of properties, or where do we need to have these sort of properties, because that is vitally important for us to know before we take on these properties. Again, you need to look around your area, find a patch first. Where do you want to invest? Where do you really think tourists are going? Where we've got lots of attractions, and then obviously where we have lots of events. It could be city center areas, it could be town center areas, it could be near football clubs, wherever we've got tourists constantly going. Basically, it's not a you don't want to get that property in a place where it's only season time. You only got guests there season times. You want to get a place where there are guests visiting throughout the year. Places could be London, for example. London, whether it's winter, summer, spring, whenever it is, people are visiting London. They literally want to go to the city of London. And you've got Cardiff, you have Birmingham, you have Manchester, you have Leeds, you have Edinburgh. You have so many places. Example, Snowdonia is there as well, Lakeside. Or you've got all these places. People are constantly going to these places. So these are the areas you want to locate your service accommodation in order for you to be able to make what I'm going to be suggesting or recommending, or the analysis here. So this £5,000, I'm going to show you now how that £5,000 could generate you £25,000 a year. And again, you could use that same strategy to actually go and take on another property. And what you would also learn in this video is basically you don't need 50 or 60,000 pounds to invest in property. £5,000 will do it, and it will give you massive return on investment to up to £25,000. So stay tuned. As I was saying previously, so what we're going to do, we're going to look for a rent-to-rent property deal, because obviously we can afford to buy the property. So what we would do, we would look for a 2 or 3 or 1 bedroom apartment, right, or house from a struggling landlord. Right, a landlord who's really struggling to rent the property because, one, they're too busy, they have family commitment, or basically they're just tired landlord, they become elderly, they're just giving up, they're not looking after that property. And again, these sort of properties are properties that needs love, properties that needs value to be added on. So you can approach these landlords and then obviously tell them about what you do, what you intend to do in the property, and see if you'll be able to actually do a deal with them. So, and again, in this example, I'm going to use Birmingham as an example. Suppose we've got a property in Birmingham city centre, and the landlord is asking, say, for about £1,000. So us as an investor, what we could do, basically, we can go and speak to the landlord, understand what the landlord's pain point is, what help the landlord needs, and what love that property needs. Okay, once we've known all that, we let the landlord speak, so we can understand their point of view, and then obviously we then tell them how we may be able to help them. So if the landlord is looking at £1,000 or say £1,200, you would have gone and analysed the data to understand how much you may be able to pay the landlord for it to be a win-win resolution for you and the landlord. Suppose that you tell the landlord, I'm going to paint and decorate the house, I'm going to do the house really, really nice, or apartment if it happens to be an apartment, and you're going to be furnishing it, you're going to be spending lots of money in that property. Then you go and negotiate with that landlord, and then tell the landlord you may be able to pay him £850. So with the landlord looking at the £850, you're assuming you are guaranteeing him the rent. For example, saying you're going to be paying the rent guaranteed, and you're going to take on the repair and maintenance as well as the management side of things. If the landlord is a very clever landlord, he would then know £850 is kind of a good bargain for him, and also it's a good bargain for you as well, because obviously you're now renting the property at market rate, because obviously you're taking the risk to do all this for you to get money out of the investment. And important to tell him what you intend to do in the property. I've seen so many people literally get the deals fell through only because they haven't told the actual landlord what they intend to do in the property. You have to tell them upfront what you intend to do to ensure that you are taking on a solid investment. Okay, assuming that we've spoken to the landlord, instead of paying him £1,200 or £1,000, we're able to secure that property at £850 per calendar month. So what that means, basically, we have to pay that landlord £850 every single month for us to be able to acquire that property. And I would have also promised him that would be guaranteed whether we rent the property out or not. And then obviously we're promising him that there wouldn't be any void in that property. We will be paying the landlord the £850, plus we'd also have to put our deposit down, because the landlord will require us to pay the deposit to ensure that we're going to look after their property, and that deposit is fully refunded to you. But as a savvy investor, as someone who wants to make their penny work a lot harder, I include that figure in my investment, basically. Okay, and again, you've got that to pay to your landlord. That will give you a total of £1,700 to pay to the landlord. That is your rent and your deposit to the landlord. Okay, and then what we then do, out of that £5,000, would have had £3,300 left over. So that £3,300 left over is what we would use to bring the property to the standard that we need it to be as a service accommodation. You may need to paint and decorate the house, you might need to change the furniture, you might need to buy white goods, you need to buy sofa beds, you need to buy cutleries, towels, beddings, all that stuff, because you want it to be as if they are going into a hotel room without the on-site time. The benefit of doing service accommodation to the guest is that they've got all the kitchen and utensils available, pots, plates, pans, everything is there for them. They go literally going as if they're going into their own house, basically. So again, that £3,000 is what you do to actually invest to get all these facilities ready. Again, if you're investors like me, I will try to save a bit of money on that so I can use that money for any raining days. But in this example, just assume you got that 3,300. You want to make your property look immaculate. You want it to look absolutely amazing and stand out from your competitors, okay? So that's our £5,000 investment, okay? So once you know what that £5,000 investment now, what we then do, we're going to work out how much guests are willing to pay on a nightly basis to stay in our accommodation or in our property. Okay, because now it's become a service accommodation. Okay, assuming we've got that as a two bedroom flat, or what you would do, or 2-bedroom house. What you would do then basically, you can go and look at the market to find out how much people are paying. You could use Airbnb, Booking.com, places like that for you to know what the nightly rate is. Based on my experience and knowing Birmingham very, very well, nightly rate for a 2-bedroom apartment starts from £150 to about £200. Again, when you're analysing your deal, you don't want to go for the highest figure. You want to be somewhere in the middle. So in this example, we're assuming our nightly rate to be £150 per night. Okay, £150 for minimum of 2 guests is what we would receive for having someone in the property. Okay, I hope that is making really, really good sense to you. £150 per night, that's our rental income. So what we then do, instead of having the analysis on a monthly basis, we're going to do the analysis on a yearly basis. The reason is because if you're doing service accommodation, the rental income fluctuates. Because sometimes we have a busy month, sometimes we have not that busy month, and sometimes we have times when the property is not being occupied, etc., etc. So I do it as an annual figure for me to know how much I may be able to make in average when I rent the property within a year. So what I'm going to do, basically, I'm going to do 2 types of analysis. I want to do the analysis at how much the property would generate us as 50% occupancy rate, and then how much that same property would generate us at 90% occupancy rate. Again, these are the 2 figures, these are the 2 extreme figures we need to look at to ensure whether the property makes money for us. And again, for me, I need to be making profit at 50% occupancy rate. If I'm not making profit at 50% occupancy rate, I can either go back and negotiate with the landlord, right? Or pass on the deal, because I want it to be an income that would not stress me out, and no matter what, I should be able to pay my landlord on that basis. So assuming now our rental income per night is £150 per night, well, what we could do then, we can times that by 364 days, and then we times that by the occupancy rate, because obviously we're not renting the property out every single month. We're just assuming we're only renting the property 6 months of the year. Again, this is not taking into account any additional guests after the 2 guests, 3 guests or 4 guests or 6 guests if the house slips 6. And again, this is just a basic sort of analysis. And when you're analyzing your deal, this is what you do, not on the basis of having 6 guests there, because you rarely have 6 guests, but you want to see, am I making money when I've only got 2 guests at the property? If the answer is yes, then obviously you can invest in that property. So in this example then, at 50% occupancy rate, this property would generate us 27,150. Okay, this is our gross rental income from renting the property at 50% occupancy rate. So what we now need to consider is basically our utilities. Our utilities would be electricity, gas, water, council tax, and our broadband. I'd like to bring those figures in. Again, these figures would be annual figures because I'm doing the analysis on an annual basis. So that would be putting them all together. And again, I've literally increased the expense here because obviously we have inflation skyrocket, and obviously we have so many expenses. Gas and electricity is going to be so much expensive comes April or so. So I've inflated all these figures to actually reflect the cost that we may incur. So in this example, the utility would cost us about £5,340 a year. This is me saying gas, electricity, water, council tax would cost me £5,340 £340 a year. Because we're doing a service accommodation, obviously, whenever a guest checks in and out, we need to set up the property, clean it nicely, do all the beddings, make sure it's clean and tidy and ready for the next guest. And that would cost us anywhere about maybe £3,000. Again, you will see just now, if you have more guests, obviously you need to consider that price to go up a little bit, because obviously you will be having lots of changeovers to do. And then the other cost you need to consider is what I call the transaction cost. Transaction cost is what the providers charge you for when a guest book through their platform. Facebook charges you transaction cost, Expedia, TripAdvisor, and all those other companies charges you transaction cost. And again, if you have a channel manager, they would also charge you for allowing you to use their platform. So I'll put down about 1,358. I put £1,358. Again, this is entirely depends on how much guests you've received throughout the year, or some of these people will charge you a fixed fee. And again, because things may go wrong, again, I've included maintenance here. Some people say don't include maintenance because you don't have the guests there all the time, but I include maintenance because I need to ensure that if something goes wrong, I have enough money to pay for the maintenance. And I've budgeted maintenance to be 1,800. Again, you can see here, comparing it with transaction cost is a big portion of our investment, because we never know. Maybe we'll have one guest getting drunk and then break one of our bed or something like that. And again, you're also protected when it comes to that if you've included a deposit before the guest books your apartment. But again, you have to factor that in to ensure that you're not losing out, right? And the other expense I always like to include is TV license. People think I'm silly. I pay TV license in all my properties and I factor that into all my expenses. So our TV license would cost us about £156, right? So if you add all these figures out, the utility cost at 5,340, housekeeping £3,000, transaction fees 1,358, and we have maintenance 1,800, and our TV license £156. That gives us a total expense of £21,854. So at 50% occupancy rate, this is our expense here, okay? This is our expense, okay? This is our income and this is our expense. Taking all these expense into consideration, that then gives us the £21,000. What we now do, because we want to know whether we're going to be making profit in this property or not, we need to deduct the £21,854 from the £27,150. If we've deducted the £21,854 from the £27,150, that would have generated us £5,297. Okay, this would have been our net profit. It's called net cash flow. Okay, net cash flow is the gross rental income less your expenses. So you can see now in our £5,000 investment, we've made to £5,300. So basically within a year, at worst case scenario, we would have got our £5,000 back, okay? Plus £200. And again, you can see then, if you had that property for 3 years, after your first year, any other money at 50% occupancy rate, you're making profit. Right, you're making absolutely return on investment, and then bearing in mind you haven't even bought this property. Okay, this is a property you've seen online, you've negotiated, you've helped the landlord, taking on the property on a guaranteed rent basis, and you're making £5,300 in it. It's absolutely amazing way to make your money work a lot harder, especially if you haven't got £25,000 to buy a house. And again, these are the sort of strategies I use to actually get my property investment journey to the next level. Let's now look at the property in a different perspective, okay? We've literally done the property up nicely. We've listed it on in all the platforms. We've listed it in corporate website as well. And again, eventually we're able to rent that property at 90% occupancy rate. Again, this is doable if you know what you're doing. If you got the right coach, the right mentor to guide you along the way, able to do it. So what you now do, instead of just concentrating in Booking.com, Airbnb, you work with other corporate companies that would book your property for a bit longer rather than a one-night stay. They'll book you for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks. I have some of my properties, we have corporate let on it. We have corporate investors or corporate contractors have taken it. For some of them took it for literally a year on that rate. Right? Again, you could do things like that if you know what you're doing, as well as if you work with the people who have clients like that. You could work with your local travel business. You could work with online travel companies that would help that deals with corporate clients. Tell them about the apartment. Say, I've got an amazing apartment in Birmingham, Broad Street, for example. Absolutely convenient to the city center. If you have any corporate clients, I'm happy to work with you to provide accommodation for these people. And again, that would get you through that 90% occupancy rate. We suppose we have done that, then we're able to get the property at 90% occupancy rate. That property will then generate us £48,870. Absolutely right. Okay, the property would have generated us that money, right? Because we are now at 90% occupancy rate. You can see we've made all that money, but our cost hasn't gone up significantly, but it has moved from 21,000 to 22,940. So our cost has gone up from 22,940. So what now happened, basically, you can see all this, we still take on all the cost, everything is there. So you can see the cost has increased slightly because obviously we had more people staying in the property and we have long-term people. Then again, if you have people staying at the property for a very long time, it saves you the cleaning cost as well, because most of the people will clean the property themselves, and they don't really require you to send your cleaner there every day or every other day to clean the apartment. I've seen some people, when we try to send the cleaners there, they say, don't worry about it, we will clean the property, and then the cleaner would pop in as and when we move out of the property. So what you then do, then basically, we're going to deduct the £22,000 from the £48,870. That would be a net profit of £26,000. Absolutely amazing. £26,000, that's what your £5,000 investment would have generated you, right? In a property you don't even own, right? You don't own this property. All you did basically is to go online, find a struggling landlord, you help that landlord take on their property, you put it online, you get your guests, your corporate let guests, your guests to book that property, and you make £26,000. And with £26,000, you can go and get 5 of these properties. And imagine if you've got 5 of these properties, right? You'll be making ridiculous amount of money. Imagine you have 5 of these properties. You are on £125,000 a year. And again, this is the reason why I've been banging on. It's about knowing what you need to know and learning your property investment journey, so you understand what you need to make your money work a lot harder. Again, you can see from £5,000 investment, you're on £26,000. Even at worst case scenario, you're on £5,300. Again, it's a solid investment. This is way better than gambling your money away or leaving your money on a savings account. That is not going to do you any good. So if you've been procrastinating about investing in property, now is the time to take that leap of faith, to take your property investment journey to the next level. I really hope this video has been helpful. If this video has been helpful, hit the like button below, subscribe to my YouTube channel for more of these amazing tutorials. I look forward to sharing the next video. Thank you.